Welcome to the LDN radio show, brought to you by the LDN Research Trust. I'm your host, Linda Elsegood. I have an exciting lineup of guest speakers who are LDN experts in their field. We will be discussing low-dose Naltrexone and its many uses in autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc. Thank you for joining us. Today I'd like to welcome our guest, Andrea from the United States, who uses LDN, mainly, to start with, it was long COVID, POTS, MCAS, and fibromyalgia. Thank you for joining us today, Andrea.
Thank you for having me.
Could you tell us your story? When did you first get sick?
Well, I've actually had a lot of issues that probably would have benefited from LDN starting in the early 1990s. But what really led me to start taking LDN was that I had long COVID that progressed into myalgic encephalomyelitis, and I had lost all abilities to I was completely homebound, mostly bedbound, um, and just not progressing, in any way, and, I had started some research about LDN and, decided to try it. I had nothing to lose, only to gain.
Mm-hmm.
So I started in April, I guess April 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the 90s, that was when you first had the MCAS, was it?
No, the 90s was, IBS, Hashimotos, thyroiditis, fibromyalgia.
When did the POTS and MCAS come along?
That started with long COVID. That was, July 2022,
Uh-huh.
and it just progressed. Yeah, and that's, it wasn't until the next year that I was diagnosed with the MCAS and um, POTS. I was living in an area with really poor healthcare, and the doctors didn't even hear about POTS. So yeah, and then I was diagnosed with myalgic encephalomyelitis, and it just continued to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
I was losing more and more abilities, and I wasn't able to take care of myself.
So at that point, if you'd had to have rated your quality of life on a score of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, what would it have been?
At that time, maybe a 2.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you were saying that the doctors that where you were living didn't recognize POTS. Did you move?
I did. We recently moved to Long Island, New York. So I'm finally going to see someone in person for this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, who prescribed you the LDN?
Believe it or not, initially it was a psychiatrist.
Right.
Yeah, she had said that she had heard that it was helping folks with long COVID. Um, and then later on, it was a woman that who has had myalgic encephalomyelitis herself almost 20 years and got herself out of bed after about 3 years. So she's the one who actually, and I've never seen her in person, by the way. I've never been seen in person for this, despite hospitalization and whatnot. I was living in an area that didn't even, there were doctors who didn't even believe in COVID. So, um, so it was pretty bad. I was in the hospital for 5 days, and, they were prescribing physical therapy and things like that. But the one who finally diagnosed me with, formally with POTS and MCAS and, several other things, the myalgic encephalomyelitis, that was someone I had seen online, and That's who I later ended up getting the LDN from.
Hmm. So going back to your Hashimoto's, did you receive any medication for that?
For what? I'm sorry.
For the Hashimoto's?
Yes, I've been on Synthroid and or levothyroxine since the early 90s, but I haven't had much blood work. I'm finally being seen here in New York next week, so I'm sure there'll be lots and lots of tests. But the few tests I did have in the Southwest, my numbers did drop. So the LDN did positively affect my Hashimoto's disease.
Hmm.
I take much less thyroid medication now.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. So it's helped that as well as other issues.
Hmm. So when did you start the LDN?
April 19th, 2023. So it's been about it's 13 months
Hmm. Okay.
that
So
I've been on it.
when you first started, did you notice any introductory side effects?
Um, Not much. I think a little bit with dreaming and my sleep hygiene, but it only lasted maybe a week or two.
Hmm.
I didn't have any big issues, and I started kind of low. I don't remember what I started at. Maybe zero point 0.5 milligrams or something, but I increased pretty quickly up to 4.5 milligrams. I didn't have any issues really that I can remember, nothing big. They
Hmm.
were short-lived.
And can you remember any improvements?
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah. I was able to, walk walk to the bathroom, and later on I was able to walk to the living room. I was able to do a lot more. I was able to think a bit clearer. I was able to shower myself. Yeah, for me at that time, they were really huge improvements, and they happened pretty quickly. Also, uh, probably within days of the first dosage, I noticed improvements.
Hmm. Now, could you tell us, you said that your quality of life was on that score of 1 to 10 a 2. Could you walk us through a typical day for you at that time? What happened from when you woke up in the morning till you went to bed at night?
I was in bed uh, all the time. I mean, there's not much to describe. It was hard for me to get up and move. I felt like my limbs were in concrete, and also trying to walk through extremely thick molasses or peanut butter. It was it felt really impossible. Um, yeah, I was mostly in bed. My husband was taking care of me.
Mm, it's difficult, isn't it? Could you give us your score today? What would you say your quality of life is?
Uh, Probably like a 5. I've
Okay.
had since I started the LDN, I didn't fully know what was going on, and I didn't have care, and I had severe PEM. So I ended up actually having a huge setback that made me much worse, and I lost a lot of abilities, even more abilities for quite a few months. Um, so yeah, I'm just trying to recover from that. Um, but I am up on my feet. I was able to, do the 5-day drive across the country, and I am able to cook meals now. I cook meals. I'm able to watch TV, which I couldn't, tolerate screens. I couldn't tolerate sound or light. And that's not the case anymore. I'm able to listen to the radio, watch TV. Um, like I said, I can cook a meal. I can shower independently and without a shower chair. My POTS is as good as gone. Um, the last time I saw the practitioner online, she said I still had, dysautonomia, even though I didn't have the really terrible increases in heart rate and whatnot as frequently. I'll know more next week when I get back to doctors,
Mm.
when I see some doctors in person. Um, um, but yeah, my life is greatly improved,
Oh, that's
despite
wonderful.
that huge setback. Yeah.
Well, getting to see the right doctor who's experienced in the conditions that you have to put a treatment plan together for you, um, hopefully you will get back to where your quality of life is like a 9 out of 10. That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
I sure hope so. I have faith. Yeah, I try to stay off of the negative support groups and all that. And I think all things considering and where I've been at my lowest, which was, a quality of life of 0, um, I think I'm doing remarkably well.
Hmm.
And I do believe that the LDN is helping with the neuroinflammation and whatnot. Um, the pain and the stiffness, some of the cognitive issues. I think it has really benefited me, especially when I initially started in April 23. It gave me the biggest jump of quality of life that I've experienced since getting ill,
Hmm.
severely ill.
You said that you were from the Southwest before you moved to New York. Which state?
No,
Sorry.
no, no. Actually, I come from New York. I moved to the Southwest because it was always my dream to
Oh,
live in the
okay.
Southwest.
Whereabouts in the Southwest? Which state?
Northern Arizona. So
Okay.
I was there 1 year and then I got sick. And just
Oh,
recently I was well enough to make it back to New York and get back to good doctors, good health care and family.
mhm. Okay. We do actually have, trying to think where she's from. Dr. Elizabeth Livingood is from Arizona. She's one of our medical professionals. Um, it's not Phoenix.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was all the way up north. Sorry.
no, it's okay. But anyway, it doesn't matter now that you've moved back to New York, and I wish you every success with your forthcoming appointment. What would you say to other people who are experiencing problems and perhaps aren't lucky enough to move to another state?
Well, I mean, definitely we have to be our own advocates because there are lots of practitioners who don't know, especially PEM. The entire time I was going to specialists, I was going far away, thinking I was getting some help, and I was seeing specialists, and the whole time I was describing PEM, and they should have known what I was describing, and none of them did, and that is really what caused my downfall. This didn't have to progress to such a terrible condition. So, I mean, the biggest thing is to educate oneself. If you have to educate your practitioner, if you don't get satisfaction, search for a different practitioner because I experienced a lot of sexism and gaslighting. That was women's issues and things like that, hormones and um, just ridiculous things. Um, Yeah, advocate for yourself, educate yourself. If you get, to the point that I would do anything to try to have some kind of life back. And I advise people to try things. I tried several things, and some things made me worse. But thankfully, I found some things that helped me and have given me some life back. So you have to be able to take that risk because, I don't know about other maladies, but certainly with myalgic encephalomyelitis, with long COVID, with CFS, those kinds of things, there is nothing approved by the FDA. And, I think we just have to be our own little scientists and try to figure out what might be most helpful to give us more life, give us more health. Um, yeah, and just read facts, not things that are opinions or fiction or and also don't believe all the negative, a lot of negative posts, or if you Google about myalgic encephalomyelitis, they say there's, a 5% recovery rate and things like that. I believe I am going to recover.
Wonderful.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
You did say that a psychiatrist prescribed LDN for you.
Yes.
Were you told by any of the doctors that you saw and specialists that it was imaginary, that it was just in your mind?
Yes. When I spent 5 days in the hospital and I told them my mother was taken down by a post-viral illness, and she was in a wheelchair her whole entire life from the age of 21 till she passed. I said there may be a genetic component. I had said I had COVID, and I was very sick for a long time after that. And then, of course, the PEM came on months and months later. But they weren't hearing it, and they ended up diagnosing me with locked-in syndrome, which is pretty much a mental health diagnosis. And I was a therapist, so
Mhm.
I know exactly what it is. And I said to them, "This is the happiest I've ever been in my entire life." I was literally living my best life. I had bought a buggy. I was buggy riding in Sedona. I started a club, and I was buggy riding a few times a week. I was playing pickleball. I was doing water aerobics. I was hiking. I got tickets to the famous wave, and people try for years and years to get permits for the wave in Utah. And I did that, and that was, oh gosh, about it was well over 16 miles on slick rock. I mean, I was really active and living my best life. I was so happy, happiest I've ever been, and they still diagnosed me with a mental health issue,
Mm.
locked-in syndrome. Yep,
Well, how about we talk again next year and see what your journey has turned into?
absolutely, I would love to.
That would be amazing. Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and stay well as possible.
I'm Dr. Leonard Weinstock, a guy who's been prescribing LDN since 2005, and I've seen the wonders. And I keep on seeing them, especially in hard to diagnose conditions. They're not that hard to do, but once you know about mast cell activation syndrome, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, you'll find that 17% of your friends or relatives have one or more of these conditions, and you can help them. We're making a documentary to wake up the medical community, to educate the population, but we need funding. So please fund whatever you can afford, no matter how little. www.mcasfund.com. That's mcasfund.com.
Any questions or comments you may have, please email me, Linda, Linda, at ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your company. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.